What's going on, guys? PepperBelly here, bringing you some more Chivalry Medieval Warfare. This is actually the major update to the second one's coming out sometime. They said January, I don't really know, and it's actually the beta update 3. So not only is it the patch, but it's actually the third beta test for this particular patch. It's going to be released supposedly sometime this month. I don't really know when. I don't know what they're doing. It's been a while. They haven't actually given a definite date, a 100% confirmation of when to expect this beta to go live and everyone can test out, or everyone can play the awesome new maps and weapons. You can see I'm running around with the flail, and this is actually the new team objective match on Citadel, which is basically the Agathian Knights have to assault the Citadel. They start off out here. What their main mission is to do is to come in here, grab the ballistas, turn them around, and use them against us by firing at those wooden walls you see behind me. Essentially breaching those walls, having the walls collapse, and then they push forward, freeing all their slaves. And because, you know, Mason Order's badass and we have slaves, so they have to go in there and start freeing every single slave they have. Once they do that, they advance again to another stage and have to free some more slaves. And then after that, they have to try to breach through the Citadel main gates at the actual chamber area where King Mulric would sit on his epic throne. And then once they breach through it, anybody's guess. I'm pretty sure you guys already know where this is going. You have to kill King Mulric, and that's what they gotta do. That's just the objective that the Agathian Knights have ahead of them. Now, this map is actually massive. Would suit wonderful 64-player servers greatly. Like, I mean, when you look at the actual aesthetic and design of the map itself, Citadel, particularly the one we're playing on right now, it's actually huge. It's broad. It's got a lot of open environments. The outside, in particular, where we're fighting right now, is actually massive. Like, you can go way off to the right side or way off to the left. There's so much you can actually do with this map. And I can easily see it once you have 64-man servers and people are actually fighting, and they're actually probably trying to do an actual defensive instead of what we're doing right now because we have limited numbers. We're not actually having a legit defense going on right now, where we're just kind of like pushing out in the same, right down center pretty much. We're not actually going out on the sides and the flanks where they can actually come from and move to and all that. Whereas with the 64-player game, I can easily see people utilizing more areas of the map because you'd pretty much need to. You're gonna have those guys that are gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna sneak around because I'm a sneaky guy. You know, I'm gonna stealth my way into the area and sneak on that ballista, which has happened many times. It's actually possible to do that. It's actually possible to sneak all the way around unnoticeable and actually get on that ballista and start pounding away at the gates, and none of us know. And I'm pretty sure that's actually what happens to us in this particular match. We don't even pay attention to what's going on behind us because we're so far out here, kind of like just ignoring the fact that someone can easily just wrap around behind us by taking the sides. As you can see, there's a guy right over there I happen to notice and start closing in on him. It's very easy for them just to use those rockish, volcanic rockin' structures, man. And basically they can just easily hide behind that, use that as our blind spot, and just get around and do cool things. But after that, it actually kind of funnels in. So it's not really so much as a massive opening. It actually kind of, it forks. Like, so it's kind of like a huge area in which you can traverse outside and you get inside, and it kind of forks into two different directions. Which, you know, there's the cage kind of bridge. It's hard to explain. It's actually like a slave cage. It's kind of like hooked up to some kind of crane, and it's hanging there. And they basically have to cross that, and there's two different directions. You either go far off to the right or far off to the left, and there's a huge volcanic, just empty spot right in the middle that if you jump down, you're pretty much, well, guess what? You're going to be swimming in lava. It's not going to be great. It's going to be pretty miserable. It's going to suck, because getting cooked alive is terrible. I don't know who would want to do that ever, unless you're like some crazy, into that sexy, kinky shit, sex-related stuff, and you get some bitch to pour lava on your chest. Fuck that. You gotta seek help, because that's just not right. That's just not good. But basically, it kind of does that, and then after it funnels in again at the entrance, and it basically just kind of, it's a huge variety. Like, this one map, it's one map specifically, but it has so much variety in the way that the areas actually change. Like, there's so many different aspects of this one particular map. It's very well designed. It's actually probably one of my favorite maps in the game right now. Next to Hillside. Hillside, I would say, is probably my #1 just because I love the overall design of it. I think it's such a fluid map, the way it plays. This is pretty much in second place to me. This is very, very close. It's very, very well done. I personally love team objective. That's just my thing. I love team objective games. I like dueling, don't get me wrong. I love free-for-all, but I mean, I love playing getting into the medieval theme, role-playing to some degree, without actually going like, come out thou, Higginsworth of my scrotum sack. Like, I'm not gonna do shit like that where I want to actually be like legit role-playing, but I mean, it's fun to get into the spirit of the game and actually do medieval iconic things. That is what this game is kind of designed and revolved around, so it's kind of nice. There's a lot of other things included in the beta as well, and you can actually opt into this beta as well. I probably should have mentioned this from the get-go. Anybody can try this beta. This is not like a closed thing where it's like, oh, only exclusive cool people get to do this. Everyone gets to do it. You basically just go into your Steam tab, right-click on the game, go to Properties, find the beta tab, opt into the beta, apply, it'll download an update. I think it's like a 1 gig patch or something, it'll download, and then you're pretty much good to go. You can play the game as much as you want. You're going to have a blast because it's pretty fucking addicting and really fun. They've actually made a huge improvement over the game in general. Like, the fact that they actually added a whole bunch of new stuff, which I'm going to get into shortly. But basically, that's the general premise of how you gain access to it. Now, going into some topics on things they've actually added. There's a duel mode now. So a lot of people were like, oh, they finally met that Kickstarter goal, the stretch goal that they had back in the day. Well, they reached it, and then they were like, okay, we're going to include duel mode. And basically what duel mode is the way I've had a lot of speculation of how it's going to work. I've mentioned it in past Chivalry videos. I was like, I don't really know exactly what they're going to do with it. I don't know where they're going with it. Now I know exactly how it's done. Basically the way it is, there's a ladder. So as soon as you join the server, it kind of pits you in this pool with a whole bunch of other actual players in the game. And essentially you just challenge individual players. So you'll see like a whole list of you guys, and you basically just go click on one of them, and then off to the side of their name it'll say challenge. You click on that. If they accept the challenge, then it puts you into an arena, a single player, like a duel, a map sizable for duel, just 2 people to go in there and duel each other. And they're not like super confined, so it's not gonna be like, oh, okay, you want to duel each other, we're gonna put you in this super microscopic arena, or put you like a pallet floating in the ocean and say, good luck, whoever dies, well, gets the easy way out, and the other one floats on for eternity. Something like that. They're actually like multi-level, and it's kind of neat because the one I was playing on with a buddy of mine, there's actually like this little elevator lift in the middle that basically just goes up and down the entire time, and then there's like this spiraling staircase that goes from the very top all the way to the bottom. So there's a lot of variety in the way you can actually fight in this arena, which is kind of nice. And you get no interruption either, so everyone else is kind of doing their own thing. They get kind of spawned on their own map, so they get the same exact map that you're playing on, but they're doing it on their own. You can actually spectate these players as well, which is kind of nice. So you'll be in the middle of a fight. Once you lose or whatever, best of 3, then you can actually go back into the pool, or you can rematch the person you want to rematch, or you can leave. You can rage quit, whatever you feel like doing. Basically, you can actually go back into the pool, and you can actually spectate other people that are fighting, which is kind of nice. You can see who's doing the best, and overall it combines the total wins that a player has, and then whoever has the most wins essentially wins the game, I guess, because there's no real like winning or losing, because it's just duel mode, right? You're pretty much challenging the person you want to challenge, but there is kind of that thing where essentially whoever has the most wins technically wins the match. So that's kind of how they made it. That's how they made it work. It's very fluid. It's very great. It's actually a lot of fun. And I can see it being so much better the more that people get involved in it and the more maps they create for it. Because so far they have two maps I've seen in duel mode. They have the one I mentioned earlier, which has an elevator in the middle and a spiraling staircase, and they have one that's on a dock, and it's kind of like a lumber mill, except the sign says brothel for some reason. Apparently it's a brothel, but there's a lumber mill with saws cutting wood. I don't know what the fuck kinky ass brothel that is, but that seems like a crazy place that I might want to go and check out. But basically, you go in there and it's a little building, and you're on a dock, and you just run around. You can run around the circumference of the building, or you can go inside it into multi-level buildings. There's 2 floors. And you can actually get killed by the saw, so you can kick a person into the saw and it saws him up when he's dead. Would you look at that? There's actually traps you can use. It's very, very cool, and I like what they actually managed to do with it. Now they have a few game modes that are brand new as well. They have Capture the Flag, which is actually a ton of fun. They have 2 different varieties of Capture the Flag as well. They have the traditional one that everybody knows. You basically just go into the enemy area, you capture their flag, you pick it up, and you run away with it and bring it back to yours, and basically you score a point. If the enemy has their flag, or has your flag while you have theirs, you have to kill the enemy carrier before you can actually capture it, which is, you know, the traditional way of playing Capture the Flag. You know, that's just the way it is. And it's actually kind of nice, because I speculated about this in the past, and basically, I was curious about how they were going to make it so the flag carrier, how he can actually utilize the flag. And basically, it actually acts as a weapon. So once you have the flag, you can actually run around with it, stab people in the face, do all the necessary things that need to be done. And basically, it lets you defend yourself against a whole horde of guys whenever you're getting rained down by blue or red-colored fools in their tabards. And basically, you can just try to defend yourself as best you can. It's kind of it's not an overpowered weapon, but it's still enough to warrant you easy kills and definitely able to defend yourself like more than you would expect, because it actually does what is necessary and what you need to be able to kill things quicker. It acts like a polearm and kind of like a spear at the same time, more so of a polearm, but it's a pretty adequate weapon and it works kind of well. And you're pretty much gonna, if you're really good at the game, you're gonna be able to defend yourself with it, no problem. And you'll be able to capture that flag. The second version of this capture the flag game type is that it's actually, instead of having to capture their flag by going into their base and grabbing theirs, you have to take yours to their flag. So it's a lot more intense, a lot more exciting, because, I mean, it's ridiculous. You got these two guys that are trying to bring, and you have massive escorts too, and you got these two forces that end up just meeting in the middle and just clashing it out, trying to like bring that flag into their territory. And pretty much it's kind of like territory control to some degree. I mean, you're going in there and trying to like claim this land as mine, piss and urinates, and this is I mark the spot now, like with I own this belongs to me type thing. But you have to do it like multiple times. Obviously it's not going to just be like as soon as you do it once, game over. You have to do it 3 or 4 times. I don't remember exactly the score count for that, because it took us, we were in there for like 10 minutes and I didn't even beat it because I had to end up leaving. But it's a lot more interesting, it's a lot more intense. And the 2 maps I was able to play this on so far is the traditional one, Moor. I believe that's what it's called. I don't remember. It's the massive grassy land one where the archers love to sit on the sidelines and fire arrows across no man's land. And you know the one I'm talking about. If you play the game, you know what I'm talking about. Every time I look at the map name, it always says Moor. So it's like M-O-O-R-E. I'm guessing that's what it is. Could be completely wrong. You know, maybe I can buy a suit there, but I don't know. But anyway, basically, it's that map, and then there's a new one that they have, which is called Frigid, and it's actually a really, really interestingly designed map. It's a ton of fun, especially for capture the flag, because the map actually has traps that you can trigger, which is really, really cool. There's these giant-ass boulders made of snow, and basically any damage it takes. So, I mean, you can sit there with like a pebble and just chuck a pebble at them from like 100 meters away, which is ridiculous range. But anyway, basically you can just do that, and any damage it'll take, it'll activate it, and it'll start to roll down this massive hill. Anyone in its way pretty much gets smushed and killed, and it's hilarious to see. And there's actually these giant log traps as well, which work pretty well when you have the flag and you're running away from the enemy, for example, and they're chasing you, and they're in fair proximity to you. You can actually run through this area, trigger this wire. It's like a rope trap, and basically once it activates, these 2 logs come crashing together and smush whoever the hell happens to be in its way. It ends up being a complete clusterfuck of awesomeness. It's so much fun because I've actually seen people trigger their own traps ridiculous amount of times, and it's hilarious because you just see them get crushed by these 2 logs, or this boulder runs, like, you know, splatters them and gets them completely crushed. I mean, you can actually lure people into the trap as well, which is hilarious because they don't really pay attention. Like, you'll be fighting around the boulder, for example, and you happen to get in a position right in front of the boulder, and then you make it seem like you're going for a hit for him, but you're actually hitting the boulder, and then he's like, oh, you missed, and then the boulder just rolls and crushes him. Things like that. It's absolutely hilarious. It makes the gameplay a little bit different, a lot more variety of the way you can actually kill people, and it spices things up a bit. It makes it a lot more fun to me, anyway. And that's pretty much all that Frigid really has to offer, and the fact that it's also snowy, I guess. I think it's like the first snow map they finally have in this game, so it kind of makes it like a winter wonderland with gore and shit. Plus, with the new Gore that they have in it, like the ragdoll slider and all that stuff, and seeing the blood splattered all over the snow. Kind of fucking awesome, because this game just does a really good job at showing off Gore. Now, of course, it's not 100% like solid to the Gore thing, because they have a ragdoll slider, and people were always wondering, like, what is the ragdoll slider? Does that make the physics better? Basically, it just makes it so that bodies stay behind more. And I've actually tweeted a few pictures of this where I went into a bot match with myself and just let these 64 bots just start mutilating each other, and I'd occasionally get in there and start killing them too. And basically, you can look on my Twitter, you'll see there's a fucking shitload of pictures of just bodies, like, just littering everything, like hundreds of bodies all over the place, and it looks so awesome. It's retarded, and these bodies just piled on top of each other and shit, and it's ridiculous. And then there's obviously the Gore slider, which is like the blood decal slider, which basically the more you turn that up, the more blood decals and shit stay behind. So you kill someone, blood starts squirting out, and it'll actually leave blood stains all over the place, which is a lot more realistic now. It looks a lot nicer, so you're not just cutting off someone's arm. There's all this blood spewing out of his arm, but it's not landing anywhere. It just looks ridiculous, right? Because, I mean, there's no blood on the ground, but they actually rectified that problem now. And the fact that you can actually hit bodies repeatedly and you'll keep seeing blood, just kind of like Halo 1. If you guys are familiar with Halo 1, one of my favorite things to do in that game was just melee the shit out of a grunt or elite while they're already dead, and just see the blood, just the pool of blood just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it starts lagging the shit out of your Xbox and you can't play the game anymore. Because it's like, it's super laggy. It's like, whoa, man, I can't. It's like fucking slideshow, like 1 frame per week type deal. That was a lot of fun, and you can actually do that in this game too, which is just great. So not only after you kill an enemy, just smacking his body on the ground, you're going to see a lot more gore as you're smacking his body on the ground when you're like declaring your dominance over this Agathian scum, because, you know, Agatha sucks. We all know that. Agathas are a bunch of pussy little babies that have to tend to their gardens every day while we're, you know, busy killing fools and getting pussy, because Mason's the shit. You know, King Mulric is the badass motherfucker of the world. But yeah. Now, another thing they actually added to the game, which alters a lot more of the actual combat. It makes it so much more dynamic now, and I'm going to get into that right now. They added 2 new melee abilities. So there was the traditional people that were like, oh yeah, finally you can melee from the left side. There's always those people in the forums that are like, why can't I melee from the left? And Torn Banners would always be like, well, because it requires a lot of animation, reconfiguring and stuff, and doing all this crazy things that would take a lot of work. But we'll see what we can do. And essentially, they did a good job. It works amazingly. The animations look perfectly fucking fine to me. They're actually excellent. And they pretty much added that ability to aim or attack from the left. Now, I only recently discovered this by accident, and I only figured it out in this match. So the match you're seeing right now, I only realized that I was able to attack from the left, as you're seeing right now. Well, I just did it. And during this match, because normally what I tend to do is when I go into the key configuration, I always make it so my feinting and my 1-button dodge are on my thumb buttons on my mouse. So, like I've said a million times, I have the Razor Mamba, and I basically use the thumb buttons as obviously what they're intended for, quicker, dynamic gameplay in real time, so I can do better things. And one of them was feint, and one of them was the 1-button dodge. Because I used to play Man-at-Arms all the time, and I still do. But, you know, since I got new weapons like the flail that the knight carries and shit, I started playing as this guy more. But basically, when I went to the keybinds to adjust that, because every time you update a patch or whatever, it always changes it. So when I looked at it, it actually had predetermined keys. Like, so the thumb buttons were already assigned to something, and I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So I go and look at it, and it's basically attacking from the left and an alternate overhead. So now, when usually the only time you can ever use the alternate overhead is when you perform a combo. So you guys are probably familiar when you perform 2 overheads, you kind of do that like 1 slash, and then you do this really weird like overhead thing. It looks kind of ninja-like, and it's really badass. Essentially, now you can actually start off with that melee. Instead of having to go into a combo for it, you can actually just do that, and it's a lot quicker, and it kind of opens up a whole new array of ways to melee dudes, and it's a lot of fun. Makes things so much more interesting, and it actually makes the combat a lot more dynamic now, because getting around shields is significantly easier. You guys are probably thinking that shields were really annoying and they were really effective because at the time you were only able to attack from the right side. Now, as a Man-at-Arms player, the thing I used to always tend to do is try to jump over top of their shield and perform an overhead and land a blow to their right side, right on their, try to hit their head essentially, or get them in the throat or something anywhere in the shoulder. Pretty much just try to hit them over their shield. That completely goes out the window. People with shields have to be a lot more cautious now because it's a lot easier to get around them, especially when you're hitting from a left side attack. Their whole left or their whole right side's actually open, and it's a lot easier to do so, especially when you can get that perfect angle where you can just sneak that left side melee in there and hit them on the side of their arm or something and completely just mess them up. Works a lot more effectively. I actually started just attacking from the left side a lot more often now, just because it's a lot easier to nail a target, especially when they go for a melee attack and they're opening themselves up. You don't have to worry about their shield getting in the way. If you happen to swing from the right, you can just go left right away, and their whole right side is open for a nice smashy blunt to the face, and it's great. Now, the traditional way you used to actually melee by the left is by pressing Alt and then pressing the regular melee button. Now, the thing is, they actually still have that, but they have actual keys now you can configure to whichever one you prefer. It's a lot easier having the mouse button to be able to do that kind of stuff, which makes it so much easier just to have it quicker access. But for those of you that prefer not having to press 2 different buttons at once, even though pressing Alt and left click is pretty fucking easy for a left attack, It's only the overhead, the second overhead that's a little bit more kind of tricky of what you want to put it on. But if you have 2 extra mouse buttons, give her shit. It makes it a lot more easier to do that. Considering you don't actually need to press Q to feint anymore, which I used to always change that, like I said, to something else. I used to put it on one of my thumb mouse buttons, but since now, all have to do is just block. So whenever you melee and you block, that counts as a feint. It works a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to spam it too, so there's a lot more people out there that are like, oh my god, I'm faking all the time, and it gets really fucking annoying, because they always get me. Feinting is just like my weakest. I don't even know. It's like one of the only ways to really kill me is to get a feint or sneak up behind me and smack me in the face. That works too. There's a lot of ways to kill me, but when it's a one-on-one thing, feinting just usually always gets me, especially when the person's really aggressive. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Basically, it just makes it a lot easier to do that, especially using the thumb keys. The only thing now is I don't really have a one-button dodge, but I never really use that anyway. I always tend to still stick to the whole double tap in each direction thing. It just makes me a lot more cautious of when I need to use it. Only problem is sometimes you're too slow and it completely fucks you over. But regardless, the new melees really make the game a lot more fun. It makes it a lot more dynamic and a lot easier for me to kill people now. Now, there's one thing I want to talk about, and this is completely unrelated to like patch things or anything in this game. I'm going to close with this and then let the rest of the gameplay play by itself. But basically, the thing I was actually really annoyed with in Chivalry is the blocking. I don't know what is happening. It pains me to see this happen, but basically, blocking seems to be getting progressively worse with every patch that comes out. It may just be me. I know some people are like, no, the blocking is fine, but like, I've had gameplay that most of you guys have seen in the past. I mean, most of you guys have actually subscribed to me because of Chivalry, but for those of you that have seen it, you can kind of know that I was able to take on multiple guys at once. I've actually went up against groups of enemies by myself and managed to kill them all. That is my point. It's so much more difficult to do that now. I don't know what the fuck happened, but basically, if you're going up against 5 guys, you're fucking screwed. There's just no way you're gonna, like, where I used to be able to see 5 guys and be like, oh yeah, this is even. These odds are pretty good, okay? Like, this is in my favor. You gotta get one more dude and then maybe it'll be even, you know, being the cocky asshole I am. But basically, I used to see that and be like, you know, like that, okay, this is gonna be fun, taking on 5 guys by myself, and I was actually able to do it, and a lot of people would actually, like, freak out when they see me be able to take on a whole bunch of guys by myself. That is no longer the case. It's so much more difficult to take on guys, because as soon as you block off, you know, you block one attack, then you're pretty much just screwed for the rest of them. Like, everyone else just comes in, there's no way you can block in time, you're pretty much just done, and it's really, really annoying, and it just completely diminishes the gameplay to me. I don't know what happened. It seems like it went from being all about skill to, like, bullshit timing, and the fact that flinching also doesn't seem to be as good as it was. I mean, flinching used to be the main thing I used to do. That was my main tactic. Now, I am going to be completely 100% serious here, because that was me. That was my main thing. I used to fucking flinch the shit out of everybody, because that was the way that I used to open up attacks on someone. Now when I play the game, flinching is so hard to do. It's so, like, ridiculously impossible to actually do it properly that I can no longer kill people properly. Like, my skill, I can honestly, it could be just like, oh, you're suddenly shitty at the game, so that's what I blame it on. Haha, you know, you suck, so you're just trying to find something to blame it on. But no, but like, I've actually put hundreds of hours in this game. I already had over 120 hours in the game before it was even fucking released. So that's pretty ridiculous. And comparing it to back then to now, it just seems like back then the game was a lot more skill intensive, where now it's kind of just like a lot of bullshit things that happen, which I don't really know how to explain it. It breaks my heart, because I see a game that I loved and cared about so much that suddenly it's not nearly as incredible and as fun as it was. And back then, it's getting better. This patch has definitely improved a lot of things, but when blocking doesn't work and things just get in the way of not making the experience as enjoyable as it used to be, and the fact that I can block somebody and when I swing for a melee, there's no way that they can counter it, or they can counter it easily where I can't. Like, there's a lot of things that I can get into a whole other video on this discussion, but I won't, because I don't want to bore you with that, because it's not a big important thing about the game at all. This is just me kind of ranting about how I really don't like how the game is kind of just becoming less good. I guess that's one way I could say it. Even though I just kind of went on this whole rant saying that this game is amazing because it's a new patch. This is just a side thing that it's very minuscule. It's not like a huge game breaker, but it definitely does kind of impair the fact that I used to love being able to go up against hordes of guys by myself, feeling like a total badass, killing all of them. And now I can't really do that as effectively as I was in the past. It's not... I don't know what happened. I can't explain it. There's actually a discussion we were having in the game with the beta one guy was saying that apparently overclocking your CPU speed increases the attack speed of your actual character, and it's a known bug. That was a discussion we had as well, saying that if you overclock your CPU, traditionally it's a way of, you know, compensating for your old hardware, but for some reason in Chivalry it actually increases your attack speed, which obviously gives you a huge advantage when you think about it. And that's one thing we were talking about. I don't know if that's actually true or if I can back things up, but it kind of seems like it could be, and I really don't know what to say about that. But there's a whole bunch of things that they really need to rectify in this game to make it absolutely amazing, because this game, I've been supporting this game forever. I will continue to support it, and I don't want to see one of the games I love to death go down the tubes like a lot of games I've played, like Blacklight, for example. Blacklight Tango Down was amazing to me, but then Retribution kind of just went into the Call of Duty direction where it just became a lot shittier. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please remember to rate the video, comment the video, and subscribe if you want to see more in the future. Take care, guys.